This is a HeadGum podcast.
Hello and welcome to The Complete Guide to Everything, a podcast about everything. I'm one of your hosts, Tom.
And I'm Tim.
Tim, how are you doing this week?
Tom, I'm feeling a little run down.
Yeah, how so?
I think, life in this world has gotten the better of me.
Yeah.
But don't worry, old Timmy will live to fight another day.
Next week's going to be an in memoriam episode. Timmy did not live to fight another day.
Very funny, Tom. I was just going to let that hilarious joke you made about my death hang in the air.
Potential death, Tim. Who knows? You may never die.
How you doing this week, Tom?
I'm in like a similar boat. I am very sore.
This is crazy because honestly, I would think you and I are two of the healthiest people on Earth, most active, in great shape.
Well,
mental acuity, all there.
Well, that's true. I'll tell you this. I probably should. I'm going to get dragged for this. But the past 2 days, I've been trying a keto diet. But mostly...
That's high fat, no carbs?
Yeah. And like
What's the
moderate
difference?
Protein.
Yeah, what's the difference between that and Atkins?
Atkins is high protein.
Okay.
And this is high fat, like moderate protein. Like, don't go nuts on protein.
Right. Well, so stay away from the nuts. Because they're full of protein.
Well, except some nuts. Some nuts have a lot of fat, like macadamia nuts. But...
Oh, this must be costing you a fortune.
Well, I haven't bought any macadamia nuts yet, I'll tell you that much. But I'm not being super strict with it yet. Mostly what I'm doing at this point is just not eating bread and people have been writing into us for years, like doctors and stuff, talking about my eating and saying like, no, you have all the symptoms of like somebody who's allergic to gluten or allergic to wheat. Like, I really think you have celiac disease. You should like go see an allergist or whatever.
Yeah.
So,
you ignore that trash. They come into a shared email folder that we have,
yeah.
Tom.
Mm-hmm.
And you always try to delete them before I can see them because you're afraid I'll be worried about you.
Right. And I'm adamant that, or at least I was adamant for a long time that just the silver supplements were all I needed. Just intaking a lot of silver. That will cure most diseases and put me in tip-top shape. But I am reluctantly trying this to see if not to lose weight, just to see if it makes me feel better.
Right. And from the sound of it is it not working?
It's not working. I mean, again, it's extremely early days. I did not have to take a nap after lunch today because I didn't eat any bread for lunch, though. So there's that.
Wait, you're still on the nap every day schedule?
Yeah, and it's mostly just because I eat a lot of bread at lunch, and then I feel horrible. I either feel horrible and or extremely tired after that.
Take me through your day, Tom. So what time do you wake up in the morning?
I usually wake up at 8 a.m.
Okay. And you're doing some work. Then you have breakfast, presumably.
Oh, no, I don't do any work then, Tim. That's lounging time.
Look, Tom, I fully believe, and I've been doing this. Actually, I kind of stopped doing it this week, and I think it's why I feel like run down and a little...
Tim, don't say something perverted on here. Nobody wants to hear what you're doing first thing in the morning if it's gross.
Tom, your mind goes to places sometimes, and the fact that you're anticipating where a place... Well,
it's just I know you, and that's, what I assume might be happening.
I think it's nice, especially now that none of us have commutes, at least temporarily. It's nice to wake up in the morning and just chill. Just like sit.
Yeah.
Look out the dang window. And I'm always afraid that my wife's going to walk in.
Put the TV on.
No. I'm always afraid that my wife's going to walk in and it'll be like 7:15 a.m. and I'm sitting on the couch just looking out the window. But that's better than looking at a dang screen.
Yeah, and that's what you'll scream at her as she is calling up the hospital to take you away.
She's going to be calling up the hospital to take me away because I'm looking out the window?
Yeah, old Timmy's fine.
What kind of society do we live in?
Old Timmy's finally snapped, and I'm worried. I think he's looking outside trying to sort out, what horrible thing he's going to do to who first.
What's your normal bread-heavy lunch?
A sandwich.
What kind of bread?
Not usually as grainy as I can stand.
What does that mean?
I mean, not as I can stand. I guess as grainy as I can get my grubby little hands on.
It's not on like a full-size baguette? No.
Although occasionally I do get, the supermarket near me, the prepackaged sandwiches they have. Mm-hmm. If I get one of those, it's delicious, but it's on like a hero. And that, ooh, boy, that's going to put me out for a while if I have that.
Okay, so your post-lunch nap begins around what time?
Usually 2 or 3 o'clock is when I can no longer keep my eyes open.
And how long? First of all, the fact that you ever thought this was a healthy lifestyle, that you've been up for like 7 hours and you can't keep your eyes open.
They do it in Mexico, Tim, siestas.
Okay, and how long do you generally nap for?
4 or 5 hours. No.
Seriously.
An hour. I try and keep it to an hour. Sometimes it's less than that. Like if I fall asleep and I wake up and I feel okay, then I get up.
What's the longest it is?
3 hours if I've had a lot of bread.
All right, so if you've gone to the supermarket next door, got a hero, you're out till 6 p.m.
Yeah, and I'm telling you that's not good. I'm not sitting here telling you like, yeah, I have a nice hero and then I take a big 3-hour nap. I don't like that. It's not good. It's not good for my lifestyle or anything like that. So that's why I'm trying not to eat bread anymore.
All right, and then what time do you normally go to sleep at night?
Midnight, the witching hour.
So you're taking a 1 to 3 hour nap, and you wake up at 8 a.m. You sleep from midnight to 8 a.m.
Yeah.
So you're getting
9 hours of sleep.
9 and 11 hours of sleep a day.
Yeah. No, well, I don't take a nap every day.
You should be a lot more spry, Tom.
I'm pretty spry.
Tom.
You haven't seen me. I skip everywhere now.
You have the dark circles under your eyes.
Those are cosmetic, Tim. I've told you I'm due to the pandemic, Tim, I'm getting really into goth culture.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
All right, so you've been on the keto diet for 2 days?
Yes.
No naps. Hey, my nephew.
I took a nap today. I took a little nap, a cat nap.
I was going to say, my 3-year-old nephew just got off naps. I thought that could be something. If you guys ever hung out, this is something you could talk about.
But... Oh, is he on keto now? Is that
yeah, they put him on keto.
Right.
Yeah, I disagree with it. Unlike you, they are doing it so he'll lose weight, and I just think it's a bad precedent to set for a child. Tom, we're gathered here this week to talk about a great man, a wonderful man, a generous man, a kind man, a cool man, the coolest man.
Tim, you're making me blush.
No, not you, Tom. The magician and endurance performer.
Yeah, endurance performer, I would say.
David Blaine.
Yes.
How old do you think David Blaine is?
I think he is 47.
He is 47.
Okay, then I was right.
Yeah, no, I just, you know what? Like, I feel like, do you know how old Drew Barrymore is?
50?
She's 45.
Really?
She's like just a little older than us.
Yeah, I mean, that's what's crazy. I was thinking, I did not know I mean, it makes sense. Like, I've seen, a recent picture of her, and yeah, that checks out. But the David Blaine thing surprised me just because when I saw that, I was like, oh, he's 8 years older than me, 9 years older than you. But then I thought about, well, when he became a guy that people knew, though, we were teenagers. So when you're a teenager and somebody's 26, they're an adult. They're like a regular person. When I was 26, I was not an adult. I was not a regular person.
Yeah. Even when you're like, 18 and it's like a 26-year-old, there's no difference between a 26-year-old and a 54-year-old.
Right. You're both competent adults who are world weary. You know everything. Certainly when David Blaine first started doing stuff, I did not think to myself, you know what, if I concentrated 8 years from now, I could be where he was. But
No,
I probably could have been.
No, there's no way. You have to be a maniac to...
If I was, I'm saying if I was a maniac, if I did the same training that he did.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, Tom, we've done an episode on David Blaine before we get so many letters, so many emails. People write us letters when they're unhappy with...
Yeah, you've already done David Blaine, and Tom sounds like he has a dangerous food allergy.
Yeah, I can see the switchboard lighting up right now, Tom. Tom, this week we're going to focus on his stunts, his endurance stunts.
I mean, I'm pretty sure that's what we talked about last time. I don't know what else we would have talked about. His personality.
Magic.
Yeah.
No, his magic.
I guess
Tom,
a little bit.
Here's my this is, I think, where you and I differ on David Blaine.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really care about the stunts. I'm not that the stunts are boring to me. I want to see him do card tricks. I want to see him do levitation. I want to see him fake some stuff.
No, because I like both. I appreciate how good of a magician he is, how good of especially close-up magician. I think he's probably... You think he's better than Penn and Teller at close-up magic?
I don't know. He's probably not better than Teller.
Yeah, but he is very good. He's up there.
He's probably better than Penn.
Yeah, he's probably one of the top 5 or 10 close-up magicians in the world.
I don't think you're qualified to make that judgment.
Well, look, if there were better ones, then I would know them.
No, he's on TV and he hangs out with Leonardo DiCaprio. That's why I know him.
He hangs out with Leonardo DiCaprio because Leonardo DiCaprio knows he's one of the top 5 or 10 close-up magicians in the world.
Yeah.
You think Leonardo DiCaprio is going to hang out with the 27th best close-up magician in the world? No.
Invite him into his vaunted pea posse?
That sounds worse, Tim, when you say it that way.
I know.
I don't think he was a part of that, was he?
Oh, he was. He
okay.
absolutely was.
All I know is that the guy who played Lex Luthor on Smallville was a part of it. And that, kind of threw me, where I was like, who is in this? But it kind of makes sense that he wasn't walking around with a bunch of people at his caliber. He wasn't, like, hey, George Clooney, you're a part of this. It's like, no, I'm going to get some guys who are, a step or two below Leonardo DiCaprio's level of fame.
Tom, David Blaine,
Tobey
Maguire.
Tobey Maguire's the outlier there. Tobey Maguire, though, I see as like his left-hand man.
Down.
He's a step down, but he's a step up from the other guys. But I see him as like, Toby's my right-hand guy.
Harmony Korine.
Harmony Korine.
What's that?
I think his last name is pronounced Korine.
Tom, the day that you start correcting people on pronunciations, come on.
Yeah, today's that day. I've started.
Kevin Connolly, E from Entourage.
All right.
J.R. Ferguson, who I do not know. Oh, he was once a child actor who appeared on Evening Shade.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. He's on Mad Men too, I guess. Lucas Haas.
Yeah, I remember he was like a child actor and current actor.
Yeah, it also seems like he not only were they like a step down from him, he got people that were kind of weird looking too.
Yeah.
And like Leo, he's handsome, right?
Yeah, he's not necessarily he's traditionally boyishly handsome.
Yeah, but
he's
then
not
he kind of
everybody's
turned into like low-level, post-high school weed dealer,
handsome.
scummy for a little while, right? Like a little ratty beard.
Post-high school weed dealer handsome.
Yeah, that old trope. So anyway, David Blaine. So I think, I think you know him because he's good at what he does, but he also has a good publicist, and he's part of that posse, the beloved posse.
Yeah. So why don't we talk about the most recent stunt he's done?
Yeah, this is why we're talking about his stunts, because it's newsworthy, and we were primarily a news program.
Yeah. And we didn't want to cover this news before it happened, because what if things went tragically wrong?
Right. Okay, David Blaine Ascension. And from where we're sitting, this just happened yesterday?
Was that yesterday?
Who knows? Time means nothing. It might have been 6 weeks
Yes,
ago.
it was yesterday.
It involved Blaine floating while holding onto a cluster of 52 helium-filled balloons using a harness. The stunt took place on the morning of September 2nd, 2020. Yep, that was yesterday. Mm-hmm. In Page, Arizona, streamed live on YouTube as a YouTube original program. He got to an altitude of 24,900 feet above sea level. And then he let go of the balloons and parachuted down towards a flat ravine close to the initially planned landing zone. And he pulled it off. Okay.
Well, and he also had to put the parachute on.
Yeah, so explain what you watched yesterday, Tom. And you and I were watching together. I jumped off before the end. I got frankly, I found it to be kind of boring.
Well, you're a dull man if you find that
so
boring.
explain in your
You're a dull man if you didn't watch the whole thing just in case you get to see a man die.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. Is that what we're in this for?
I do not want to see it, but there's a thrill knowing that that's a possibility.
That's a Penn and Teller thing, Tom, that they say if a magician or performance artist, endurance, if they're actually putting themselves in real harm's way in front of an audience, that's actually unethical. Because if you have a bunch of people there watching you actually die, that will be a traumatic experience for those people, and that wasn't an ethical thing to do to those people. You owe it to your audience not to die. And I'm not sure if that counts for, like, Tiny Tim, who dropped dead during a concert.
Tim,
I don't know if they think he's unethical.
Do this episode just called Tiny Tim unethical for dying during a performance?
No, I don't. I say that's not what this means. It means, like, if that's part of your act.
Yeah. Well, and I think David Blaine, and he's pretty upfront about this stuff, that he is doing everything, not everything. I mean, he could just not do these things, but he's taking every precaution. And that every scenario, every scenario is tried to be imagined. That if during pretty much any of, during any of his stunts, if he's in trouble, there's a way for him to dump out of it, essentially, to either get help.
Take the coward's way out.
No, the coward's way out is committing suicide. He doesn't do that. Is that what you're talking about?
No, don't say that, Tom.
Well, that's what they call it. I'm not saying that I think that way, but when you say taking the coward's way out, that's what that means. Taking the coward's way out doesn't mean radioing somebody and going, "Hey, get me out of this thing." You're just always so quick to call greater men than yourself cowards.
Who else?
Astronauts.
They're not cowards. They're just not that great.
So he was originally going to do this in New York City, which would have been nuts.
Which I think is a lie. I think that was to drum up publicity.
Possibly, except he was going to do it 2 days before it actually happened in New York City. And I think if it was to drum up publicity, they would have kept the date the same.
But here's my counter, because if they were like, oh, it's not, because their thing was, oh, the weather patterns in New York City are going to be inconvenient, or
right.
it will make this impossible.
And they were, in fairness.
What do you mean?
On August 30th, September 1st, and September 2nd, we did not have perfect weather here. The weather was all over the place. We had rain and wind.
It was a beautiful day yesterday morning.
In the morning, but not in the afternoon.
But when he was doing it.
Yeah, but I think, again,
what I'm saying is.
To go back to being safe, he was like, no, there can't be a possibility of me getting hit by lightning.
Right. Although, one of his other tricks was essentially him getting hit by lightning.
But in that case, he knew it was going to happen. So he took different precautions.
Right. Okay. So, sorry, you were explaining exactly what it is.
Yeah, he was going to do it over New York. Like a day or two before that was supposed to happen, they said, we can't do it in New York. The weather's not cooperating. We're going to do it in Arizona, which makes sense because, yeah, you can go in the middle of the desert and there's no wind, no rain or anything like that. It's hot, which presents other issues, but not nearly the issues wind would cause.
The balloons were heating up, Tom.
The balloons were heating up. That's why they had to get going at one point. Mm-hmm. So the idea was that there would be a bunch of weather balloons filled with helium, and he would... I wasn't crazy about the whole, like, he's holding on to them, because he wasn't holding on to them. It was just that he was harnessed in a way that his arm was stuck in the harness, essentially. So it looked like he was holding on to them, which he did take off later on so he could, do what he needed to do. But the idea was that he would go up in helium balloons, which, a child's dream. What if I got enough balloons to actually lift me off the ground?
Gonzo style.
Right. And he did it. And then to add more excitement to it, that once he got to a certain height, he would have to put a parachute on in the air. He couldn't put the parachute on before he went up. I don't know why. And then at a certain height, at the height that I believe they didn't specify exactly what, but they said the height that jets fly at would be when he would let go and parachute down. Not let go, obviously, just release himself, which presents a huge amount of other issues because once you get to a few thousand feet, it starts getting very cold and there's very little oxygen up there. So he had to endure those things. So for him, he said this kind of combined a lot of the other stunts he's done because he had very little oxygen. So he needed to be able to stay conscious while he was doing this. He had to sustain extremely cold temperatures, which he's done before. He had to, not have a giant fear of heights, which he's done before. And then he's had to fall from a great height, although this was the greatest height that I believe he's fallen from.
Yeah.
In any kind of...
He's probably skydived from higher, but that's a difference.
Well, and that was part of it, that to do all this stuff, it was, I think, more preparation than he's ever had to do because he had to complete 500 skydives to get his skydive certification, his solo certification or whatever it is. He had to get a balloonist license to be able to fly a balloon.
Honestly, how hard is that? You never go like, oh man, the real heroes are the hot air balloon operators. That must be thousands of hours of training.
Well,
like, I understand that that's another thing he had to do, but like, it's not like, oh, he had to, log 50,000 hours flying a plane to get his pilot's license or something.
I'm not sure because, you know what? Now that you mention it, in like the whole training montage, they didn't necessarily show a lot of him balloon training.
It's a Saturday morning. You go there.
It's 3 hours.
It's one of those trainings that like you log in online and
you watch
you
a
have
few
to just
videos.
click through stuff.
Yeah. He had to get whatever kind of certification you need to fly experimental aircrafts, which I imagine takes a little bit. They didn't talk about it.
Sounds very cool.
They didn't talk about it, but he seems like the kind of guy too that may have like already had a pilot's license, and this was just like additional training for that kind of thing. So that was the major training that he had to do: the skydiving and the ballooning training, and then the other training he had to call on.
Tom, and I want to preface this saying I think this was a very difficult thing that he did, and we were talking throughout it, and I was just like, I could do this. Mm-hmm. I don't think I could do it as well as he did it, but I think if my life depended on it, I could do it.
Tim, I think you would have passed out approximately a half hour before you would have had to do it.
All right, here's my question, though.
I went
because
in
this was
cryo chamber with you, and I'm not trying to shit on you because I was in the same boat, but we both almost had panic attacks before going in a cryo chamber for 3 minutes. I do not see you holding onto a balloon, going 25,000 feet in the air, and then parachuting down.
Right, that's true. But if my life depended on it, I think I could have pulled this off.
Yeah, I think
if I had to do it, I don't think I would have died.
I think anyone, if their life depended on it, could have done it.
Yeah, but if they were like, you have to do this or the slug to the head, right? I'd be like, all right, give it a shot. And I think today we'd still be having this conversation.
Man, I don't know. You would have gotten hypoxia going up that. Would you have had the oxygen tank?
He had an oxygen tank.
Yeah, that was one of the weird things about it, that he had an oxygen tank, and they kept telling him to put it on, and he's like, no. He refused to, and then he kept telling them, like, I've held my breath for 14 minutes, and it's like, obviously these other people know this. But yeah. I guess they're also kind of not even covering their ass. Like, they don't want him to die, and I think that they're basically like, look, you're going to not have oxygen for another minute or two. Great. Nobody really cares about that aspect of the
and
stunt you're doing.
That's my main issue here, is that everything did seem kind of arbitrary, and also like in the past, and we might not actually get to talking about these stunts. We'll probably run
Should we
out of time.
just start a magic podcast, a magic and physical stunts podcast?
But at the in the beginning, the stunts were all very clear cut. It's like, I'm going to be buried alive for this amount of time.
Right.
I'm going to be in ice for this amount of time. I'm going to stand on a platform for this amount of time. Mm-hmm. This was, I'm going to.
I think the platform is though.
We'll talk about that. What?
I was going to say, I think that's where complicating the stunts got started, because he jumped off at the end.
Yeah, exactly. And this was, I'm going to appear as if I am floating away by holding balloons. Mm-hmm. And then at some point, I am going to let go of the balloons, or appear to let go of the balloons, and parachute down to Earth.
Right.
And here are the arbitrary rules. I'm not going to be wearing a parachute when I take off, but I will put one on. I will not have an oxygen tank until I get to a certain point where we've determined that I should have an oxygen tank. I'm not going to let go until I reach this arbitrary point that we're going to actually be fuzzy on because for good reason, you're not going to.
Yeah.
At that point, it's less kind of showbiz to me and more about like weird, an accomplishment with a bunch of weird arbitrary constraints put on it, right? Like, for example, this came with a whole run-up of very slickly produced video montages of him training, him, all the
stunts.
experts, and it's all very fascinating from a kind of logistics and kind of scientific point of view. But if they're going to show you all that, then why are they doing so much to be like, and it will appear like I'm just floating into air, right? Like, they had to have, with good reason, a control module in there within the balloons, where it had an oxygen tank. It held his parachute that he was going to put on. It had a number of devices to measure certain things, right?
They were able to remotely pop individual balloons if they needed to if he was going up too fast or if he passed out and they needed to bring him down.
Yeah, and they made what they call, and I forget what they called it, but it was like a control module, a control center there, because it had to technically be
an aircraft. Yeah.
Right? And they're like, and of course we're going to have to cover it so it looks like a balloon.
Because
they did say that.
I noticed that thing.
But like they said this in part of the special, like running up to it. They were like, and we don't want it to look like this, so we're gonna hide it and make it look like a balloon. But if they're telling us, the audience, that that's what they're doing, then why are they doing that? Like, who is the appearance for? Where it's like, when they say it will appear like there isn't a control module there, it will appear like he's holding on to the balloons. But if we, the audience, if everybody in the audience knows that that's all not the case, then why bother doing it at all? And it's like the difference between, like, why are they showing us behind the scenes if the goal is to make it look a certain way?
Well, I think not everybody watching it knows that. For example, I didn't realize that. Like, I watched the whole thing, and I noticed when he took the oxygen, I was looking for an oxygen tank, and I noticed, like, there's...
Now, Tom, if I were you, I would interrupt you and say, it's not oxygen, it's oxygen.
Right. But luckily, you're not me. You're
I'm a better man.
Polite, nice man.
Yeah.
Who just accuses heroes of being cowards in a very cavalier manner, quite often, to be honest. I think that most people, 95% of people, saw probably a 3-minute montage of him floating up, and we're like, holy hell, wow, all right.
Because it's not 1973. This wasn't on the news.
No, it had... They broke a live stream record. And I was like, oh, really? But it was a live stream for YouTube original content record. It was like, oh, come on. It was 770,000 concurrent viewers. So it's not that many.
No, but within that viewing, they all I'm saying is...
I'm saying most people did not watch the behind the scenes of all this. A lot of people did.
The behind the scenes was the content, is what I'm saying.
Right.
It's like if you watch a movie and if you're watching Inception, and before the scene where the city folds in on themselves, they show Christopher Nolan talking to CG artists and being like, here's how we're going to make it appear like how the city is going to fold in on itself. And then this is all part of the movie. And then the next scene is Ellen Page making the city fold in on itself.
Tim, just because you saw Inception a week ago doesn't mean everything relates to it now. All right.
All right, Tom.
No, I'm saying.
But you know what I mean? Okay, so
No, because
any special effect in a movie is there to have the appearance, and if you put the behind the scenes in the actual movie, where did anybody watch that? Where did anybody see this that wasn't friggin' nerds like you and me watching the live stream?
What do you mean? They probably saw a clip on social media.
Do you think anybody was like, oh, he must have just held onto these balloons and went up? Cool. Like, are they fooling anybody? Are they trying to fool anybody?
I don't think they're necessarily fooling anybody. I think they probably want to make it for the same reason when you're watching Inception and the city folds, you don't think they actually did that.
No, I freaked out.
All right, Tim, we were talking about the behind the scenes aspect of this, which I'm sure people are thrilled. Like, oh yeah, the episode was 20 minutes of them arguing about what's behind the scenes content and what's actual content. Is that I think what you're talking about, you're viewing this from the angle of an old man who doesn't understand content anymore, Tim. You're like Jeffrey Katzenberg. You're like, just make it a Quibi. That's all. That's what people want. They want a Quibi. People nowadays, they want a lot of stuff, and sometimes the behind-the-scenes stuff is kind of part of the stuff itself.
I get it, but then
I would have rather see especially once he pulled the oxygen, it was like, well, I don't think there's a balloon up there full of oxygen. Like, that's got to be coming from somewhere. I think it was probably mostly like, look, all this is going to look like a mess of wires and shit. Let's make it a little more aesthetically pleasing and put it in a case that also looks like a balloon. So it looks better. It's a better thumbnail, Tim. It's all about thumbnails.
Okay. I get it. It just doesn't, and I understand.
Honestly, I was kind of.
I think so much of entertainment now is just letting people into the behind the scene. Like, all people care about, like, people don't care about the actual content anymore. I think people don't care about the blockbuster movies. All they care about is speculating on what's going to happen in the next one.
People don't go to Blockbuster to rent movies anymore, and I think that just points
once
to
COVID is over, those will start thriving again. I've said this for years.
It has nothing to do with COVID.
I've said this since 2006.
You could use the drop-off slot, and it would be fine. It would be safe. Just put a sign up, don't cough on the tapes before you put them. And just definitely don't cough into the slot. That's the last thing we need.
Rewind the tapes, and for God's sake, stop coughing on them.
They should have had that sticker on there all along. I never really thought about it, but I probably handled quite a few tapes people coughed on. I don't know. I disagree. And I was going to say that going back to my joke about thumbnails, I think that is a big part of it, that people see the thumbnail and they go, holy shit, wait, what did he do? And then they click on it and they're like, oh, okay, he had some other stuff in there, but that's fine. I'm still very impressed. I'm not going to sit here like a jerk saying, I think I could have done this if somebody put a gun to my head.
I mean, I think most people.
Also, you have to realize, Tim, that you always want to frame things in if somebody had a gun to my head. Nobody had a gun to his head, which is one of the big things that people watch this kind of stuff and they go, what a maniac, what a crazy person. Nobody had a gun to his head. Why is he doing this?
Somebody had a gun to the head of a loved one.
Just off screen the entire time?
Yeah, exactly. They were holding them at a third location.
Well, I hope they were wearing masks the whole time.
All right. Tom, I thought it was good. I just thought it was a little too messy. I just didn't understand what the pretense was for. Why did they... And you're saying it's for a thumbnail, so people would be delighted to see a thumbnail.
No, I don't think it's necessarily a thumbnail. I think it's that it looks better. You want things to be aesthetically pleasing, and it looks better.
But to whom?
To the viewer. I don't want to see a big jumble of wires. I want to see something nice looking.
You love wires. I've been to your home, Tim. You got wires everywhere.
Well, and especially the control panel aspect of it, where if you needed to have all that stuff, then I could definitely see them being like, look, if it were up to us, we wouldn't have all this stuff, but we have to. So we're gonna not necessarily hide it. We're just gonna disguise it a little bit. When you go to Disney World, you're not like, where's all the gears and stuff? What are you trying to pretend like this is magic? You hide that stuff to make it look better.
No, but here's what I'm telling you is they hide it from the visitors to Disney World because they are trying to create kind of an immersive, magical experience.
That's what he's trying to do.
Not if they're showing the audience all of the things that they're doing.
But you can watch behind the scenes things about Disney World.
Yeah, but not as part of the experience.
You're lumping too much of this into the experience. Most people did not watch all the experts and everything talk for hours. Me and you did because we're interested in this stuff.
How did people watch it?
I'm positive most people watched probably a 3 to 5 minute supercut afterwards that showed aspects of it. It's the same thing with, a rocket launch or whatever. Some people watch it live, and then some people are like, oh, I didn't realize that was today. Let me watch this 5-minute thing where they just show the cool parts. Because you'll admit that at points this was real boring, where it's like, all right, now what's going to happen?
It was so boring.
I take it back, because I think that's probably part of why the parachute wasn't on and the oxygen wasn't on, because it's like, look, this is going to be real boring. It's just going to be a guy essentially stationary for an hour.
Yeah.
When he was arguing about putting the oxygen on, I was glued to the screen because I'm yelling at the screen, put the oxygen on. Who cares? When he was taking the parachute down, I'm like, don't drop the parachute, man. Because then you're going to have to let go to go down and get it. And then what happens if you don't get it?
Yeah.
I want to talk for a minute about, speaking of which, one of the guys behind this trick, Luke Akins, who was the first person to jump from 25,000 feet without a parachute, and he landed safely in a net.
Yeah, that was bonkers.
And that happened live on Fox, but I don't remember that happening because I would have...
Fox 5?
Fox 5, New York, because they're saying that when they were showing this and they were showing this guy's bona fides, I was like, wait, what did he do?
Is that how you pronounced that phrase?
Bona fides?
No, it's bona fides.
I was thinking, how come I never heard about this? They should put that on TV. Apparently they did put it on TV. But this guy, this crazy guy.
What year was that?
It was 4 years ago. And the guy was 42 at the time, Tim. He was older than us. So there's still hope that we could do something crazy like this.
This is great news.
But he...
I haven't done enough crazy things in my life.
He jumped out. I'm looking at this article right now. Apparently, he nearly canceled the jump because he was ordered to wear a parachute for safety, and this would have made his landing more dangerous because of the extra weight. However, the organizers lifted the ban just minutes before the jump. I mean, it also sounds like he probably could have just been like, oh, I forgot, and jumped out the plane.
You could have just jumped out of the plane and then taken the parachute off.
Yeah, I mean, that would have been... that probably would have added needless complexity to it. But this crazy guy jumped 25,000 feet into a 100-foot by 100-foot net.
It's a pretty big net, to be fair.
It is not that big of a net, Tim, when you're jumping from 25,000 feet. Did you watch the video of it?
Yeah. But, I mean, have you ever seen a 10,000 square foot net?
No, I've never seen a 10,000 square... Where would I see a 10,000 square foot net?
Exactly. So it's not like he jumped into something that you see every day.
I just know, watching from the video of him doing it, from the videos of the guys behind him filming him, that was like,
what does the guys behind have to do with it?
I was thinking as I'm looking at the net that's too small. That's way too small to be able to hit. What if there's just a big old gust of wind and he can't hit that net? And also, it's not like he could, dive head first into the net. He had to line up the net and be like, all right, I think I'm lined up, and then flip over so he could land on his back. That's terrifying because he certainly at some point during that had to have been like, oh, this is taking too long. I missed the net and I'm about to just splatter on the ground.
And he died doing this?
He didn't die. He landed in the net perfectly and it was fine. I get him being like, yeah, I don't want to wear if I'm going to do this, I don't want to wear a parachute at all because guess what? If I miss the net, I've got 50 feet to pull this parachute. What good is that going to do me? Like, you should not be doing this at all. But if you're going to be doing it, yeah, I guess do it without a parachute because who cares? I also assume the two guys with the camera that were dropping along with him, that they were there, like, if something went catastrophically wrong in the beginning, they could have got him or something. I don't know how that works. I know that there's a way, if somebody's parachute isn't working, to, like, catch them, but it's going to break their arms, probably. But it's like a way to hold them so that, like, they're not going to let go when you pull your chute.
Right.
But it is going to break their arms.
Braid your arms with theirs.
Kind of. It was something like, it was like a wrestling hold or something. You put them in a full Nelson and then they'll be fine. They won't be fine. You'll smash both their arms. But this guy, what a crazy thing to do. And then this guy was the guy with David Blaine who was like, hey, don't, put the damn oxygen on or they had basically also, can we touch on how bad the communication was during this entire stunt?
Yeah, definitely. And Tom, I'm telling you right now, we're pivoting. This is no longer an episode on the stunts of David Blaine. No. This is an episode on a frank discussion about David Blaine Ascension.
Yes. So much crosstalk. I guess there's not that much to say, except that there was so much crosstalk.
I feel like...
Including when he let go at 24,900 feet, as he's like pulling the cord, the guy goes, wait, over the radio because he's like, no, you're close enough. Like, you want to hit 25,000 feet. That sounds better. But also, like, as the guy's undoing things, it's too late. Don't start yelling, wait. That's not what somebody wants to hear right before they do
this. The guy on the ground was not one of David Blaine's, like, normal guys.
No, it was this guy.
It
was the guy who jumped into the net.
Oh, that was him saying all that stuff?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So also,
because he kept advising him to do stuff, and David Blaine was like, no, ask this other guy. Ask the guy right next to you. Yeah. He'll tell you. I did things. Do you even know who I am?
Although I think it does add a level of like, wow, the guy who jumped out of a plane without a parachute to land in a net is telling him like, hey, come on, put the oxygen on. Enough.
Yeah. And I think I think that goes back to my problem with, not my problem with this, because I thought the buried alive thing was cool. I thought the ice thing, the frozen in time,
Tim,
was
awesome. I thought
awesome.
you said this was just about Ascension.
But this one, it was like, it seems like this was on some levels more difficult than what that other guy did.
Yeah. Certainly in a lot more coordination.
Yeah, but it didn't seem as impressive as what that other guy did. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's the thing. And it was like, I understand the logistical challenges of doing something like this. But at the end of the day, in terms of like, boom, hey, what did he do? Oh, shit, he jumped from 25,000 feet without a parachute into a net. And this is like, oh, shit, what did he do? He attached himself to a bunch of balloons and some equipment disguised as balloons, and he didn't have a parachute on, but then at some point he did put a parachute on, and then he unhooked himself from the balloons, and then he skydived from there. That's cool, but like, I don't know. It's not as snappy, Tom. I like it when it's snappy.
Yeah,
but the communication was real bad. It seemed like David Blaine couldn't hear that guy very well, and he kept asking very specific questions. Like
Right.
the people on the ground probably should have heard David Blaine fine if we could hear David Blaine fine.
Yeah.
So David Blaine was like, "Should I unhook my left shoulder? I'm going to unhook my left shoulder. Correct? Correct? Correct?"
And
the guy wouldn't say, like, all he's looking for is correct.
Yeah.
Just say to David Blaine, correct.
Correct
But the
or
guy
no.
was just like, yeah. And the guy's just like, right as rain, my good buddy. Just saying phrases. Like, didn't you guys practice like the protocols of?
You got it, my man.
Yeah.
Well, it also seemed like the guy on the ground, like 30 other people were talking to him at the same time all the time, which again should have been better coordinated. I was just looking it up because I remember watching this a few years ago. The guy who broke the world record, Felix Baumgartner, the highest skydive ever, that was 128,000 feet.
Oh, wow.
That
was considerably higher.
Which was also, and he was the first skydiver to ever break the sound barrier at 690 miles per hour, 1,110 kilometers per hour, that is. Which I would assume that makes him also like the first human being to break the sound barrier without a machine, without being inside of some type of machine, which is also crazy. I would have thought that would have done something to you, but I guess not.
Yeah.
But that was this trick at the end of the day. If you watch this trick where it's not a trick, a stunt. If you watch somebody go up on a hot air balloon 25,000 feet and jump out, you'd be like, oh, neat. But you wouldn't be. It was kind of just adding more complexity to that. But
arbitrary complexity.
Arbitrary complexity that, in fairness, did make it look a lot cooler and made it feel a lot more dangerous.
Yeah. The other thing that was goofy, Tom, when he was first going up.
Yeah.
You know, you see him, he's in this big bulky harness and his arm is up, mimicking holding on to these balloons, but he was not holding on to them in any meaningful way. And then he was just kind of going up seemingly, because you don't see that he's going 100 feet a minute or whatever, 500 feet a minute, seemingly just like very kind of slowly. And it's just him with a look on his face, preparing, but just kind of here we go. Don't you think he should have sang a song? Don't you think they should have played music and he would have been like, up and away in my beautiful balloons.
Do you want to solve a problem?
Sure. Hello and welcome to Tim and Tom Solve Your Problems. I'm Tim.
I'm Tom.
And we are going to solve a problem. If you have a problem you would like us to solve, you can email us at thecompleteguidetoeverything@gmail.com. Garfieldmail.com. Tom?
Yeah.
This one comes to us from a lady. She wrote a bunch of stuff about the movie Fire in the Sky.
Yeah.
Do you want me to read that part?
Yeah, I do, actually.
Hey, Tim and Tom, just wanted to send an email to tell you how much I've been appreciating your podcast lately.
Thank you.
That's very nice praise for me. I've been listening since 2009, and it's been such a highlight for me between the main episodes and Patreon. Man, who would have thought patreon.com/complete guide would bring somebody such joy?
I knew.
Really brightens my week through the pandemic. There's a what? Thank you for keeping it going. Your Aliens podcast. This, by the way, it's from Kim. I'm gonna use her real name.
Okay.
She seems fine with it. Your Aliens podcast reminded me of something from my childhood that I hadn't thought of in years.
Oh, no.
Did
we bring back a suppressed memory?
Yeah, I think so. I'm near an age to you guys, and I think that only people born in a specific time frame could remember this time and period in the same way. I saw Fire in the Sky when I was 9, and I was so afraid of aliens for years later. How did I see Fire in the Sky as a 9-year-old? My parents took me to see Last Action Hero in a drive-in movie theater, and Fire in the Sky was playing at a different screen. I think I had already seen Last Action Hero, so I just watched Fire in the Sky on the other screen, which really freaked me out. I didn't even see it with the sound.
Her family went to see Last Action Hero twice in the theaters.
Yeah, well, I didn't even see it with sound as it was a drive-in theater.
Right.
I'm not as scared as I was when I was a kid of being abducted, but your show just last week got me thinking. Nobody who talks about their experience really says that it had a positive impact on their life, right? Alien abduction.
Yeah. Did not going to a drive-in movie theater. Well, I mean, that harkens back to what I was saying when I went to see Dick Tracy, and there was like RoboCop 2, maybe, incredibly violent in the screen behind it. I feel like I did also see a drive-in movie with my parents where there was another movie that had like a topless woman at one point. And I remember thinking, like, even as a kid, like, well, this must be very awkward for my parents to be like, hey, don't look out the window for a minute. I don't know what you could really do.
Tom, but you were probably 17, 18 years old when Eyes Wide Shut came out. I don't know why you were still going to the drive-in movies with your parents.
They offered to pay. And, I was a teenager. I didn't have a lot of money.
Here's Kim's problem, Tom.
Yeah. I thought the problem was, do people have positive experiences with alien abductions?
Now, how is that a problem, Tom?
I thought it was just a question. Because I was going to say some people seem to, but only after they get over, like, the terror. It's people usually that are abducted over long periods of time, and they eventually get to a point of acceptance about it. But that's about it.
So they never come back with like enhanced powers. Oh, I can now zoom in with my eyes.
Yeah, nobody has a story about, like, I woke up one night, I couldn't move, I was paralyzed, and when I opened my eyes, there were 4 gray beings around me. They took me in their spaceship and showed me an awesome time, an unbelievably cool time. These guys were cool as shit, and then they dropped me back off. That there aren't.
Why
any
do you
stories
have to
like that.
assume the worst of everybody?
Aliens. It's fine to talk about aliens that way.
I guess it's a real sad way to look at the universe, Tom.
I'm just saying nobody's had that experience that I'm aware of.
Okay, a simple no would have sufficed.
They took me up in the air in their spaceship, and guess what? It was an open bar.
Yeah, well, what if they were like, hey, they pumped me full of this crazy drug that we don't have here, and it was phenomenal?
Well, nobody says that. Some people do say that they were, like, put into, like, rooms, and then, like, a beautiful man or woman came in and took off, was nude, and they were like, hey, have sex with me. And they're like, oh, all right. And then they do, but then afterwards they're usually like, that was probably to create, some human alien hybrid. I shouldn't have done that.
Are you just talking about the movie Species now?
No, although that is very, I didn't think about it.
They brought in this lady that looked dead ringer for Natasha Henstridge.
Look, Tim, Species may have been ripped from the headlines, to be honest with you.
Here's Kim's problem. I have a 5-year-old who has been home since March. He has a friend that he misses from school and wants to send him letters, quote, so his friend knows that he really loves him, which is very sweet. But he only wants to send very boring letters. For example, a plain piece of paper with a single squiggly line drawn on it. They do serve the purpose of letting the other boy know that my son is thinking of him, but since we are going through the trouble of sending a letter, I think we should include more. My son doesn't want to do that. After he's done with his letters, I've been throwing in other pictures my son drew or extra stickers without my son's knowledge. The friend sends letters back that have messages his mom helped him write, and also drawn pictures of the two of them together. Should I stop adding extra items into my son's letters? Thanks again for the show, Kim. Hey, thank you, Kim.
I don't think you should stop throwing in extra items. I think it might be, I didn't realize that this was like a back and forth thing at first, where I was like, oh, I didn't realize that she had already sent a letter. And I thought,
where you're just like, oh, just throw out the squiggly lines and be like, oh yeah, Harry got your letter and he loved it.
well, I was going to say that I would tell the kid, like, yeah, we sent that letter, and guess what? Like, there was no reply from Harry because you sent such a boring letter to him. How is he going to respond to that? You're giving him nothing. You got to give him something to riff on here.
Shame you don't have any kids, Tom.
I would say you could probably sit down with the kid and do the same thing, like write a letter, be like, hey, what do you want to tell Harry? And if the kid's like, I don't want to tell him anything, I just want to send a squiggly line. I don't know, then you got to take the kid to a doctor or something. But but I think that would be my suggestion. I would talk to the child and be like, this is boring. This is boring as hell. Let's draw something crazy for him. How about that?
Yeah, let's go nuts.
Yeah, let's blow his mind.
Let's make up a bunch of fake shit that you purport happened to you, but is really just a bunch of lies.
It's really just stuff that you saw in a movie one time, and like he won't know. He's 5 years old. They probably haven't seen very many movies.
Let's tell Harry that you're out of quarantine and everybody else is, and wondering where he's been.
Yeah, tell him you're back at school, and everybody's like,
yeah,
what
the world
happened?
Is normal now. Where's Harry?
Yeah, I guess your mom must be, I don't know, keeping you or something? Keeping you, maybe your mom's in a cult or trying to start a cult?
Yeah, Harry, you need to get out of there.
Yeah. Yeah, play this for Harry, I guess. Send Harry a cassette of this.
Yeah. All right, well, if you want to, again, if you want us to solve your problem, the complete guide to everything at gmail.com. Tom, that's all the time we have for this week.
Yeah. You can check out more about the show here at tcgt.com. You can support us by checking out our sponsors. Also check out tcgt.com/Patreon or patreon.com/complete guide, rather. Either one will work for our secondary podcast, Books the Podcast. We're still reading, Tim's still reading My Sister the Serial Killer by, what's the author's name?
I don't recall.
Okay, but you like the book.
I loved it.
Okay. Oh, wait, you finish it?
Yeah, this is
it's only a 3-week. Wow, look at that.
Yeah, I blew through it, Tom.
Patreon.com/complete guide. For that show, you get all the back episodes. It's a great deal. Yeah.
Oyinkan Braithwaite.
What about him?
Her. She wrote the book.
Oh, what's the first name?
Oyinkan.
Oh, I thought you said Lincoln. You're holding your mic in a very weird way.
I'm holding it up to my mouth.
Yeah, because you're like slouched in your chair right now, like you can't even be bothered.
Yeah, because you're supposed to be doing the plugs.
Facebook.com/complete guide. Follow us on Twitter at Complete Guide. Follow me on Twitter at Tom Reynolds and on Instagram at Tom Reynolds.
Follow me at Your Pal Tim.
And you can follow us both on Instagram at Complete Guide. That's all the plugs I care to do right now, Tim. Where do you think David Blaine goes from here?
I don't know. I think he, look, I don't think there is really anywhere he can go.
I will say that, especially in these kinds of times, everything's so crazy. It was nice to just watch a guy doing a crazy stunt.
Yeah, I agree. And I do think he was, this is why I feel like a jerk. Because somebody's gotta criticize the man, but like I do take him at face value, where it's like, oh, this is something I wanted to do to like delight my daughter instead of
Scare
the
her.
scary stunts. Whereas like, oh, will he die? Can he get through this? And I understand
and
that.
also
but,
I think his daughter probably is like, oh, after he finishes every stunt, he has to go in the hospital for a month, and it looks
Yeah.
like he's dead.
To be fair, he hasn't done very many stunts in her lifetime.
Yeah.
She's still only 10 years old. But the other thing is like a man with a child. I don't want to see him risk his life. And I think it was different when he was a scummy guy that hung out with Leonardo DiCaprio and E from Entourage.
Right.
Where it's like, oh, this guy's going to risk his life? Cool. The world won't be worse off if he's dead, right? Like, but like, it's like, oh, no, you see him on Ascension, and it was like, if this goes wrong and he's saying goodbye to his daughter, we just saw the last time his daughter saw him, and we watched it live on a live stream on freaking YouTube.
Yeah.
And that doesn't make me happy.
Well, but like I said, I think that there were very few things that actually could have gone wrong in this thing.
Yeah.
I think they
Which
really
is why, Tom, I think that gun to our head, either one of us could have done it.
Oh, I'm not. You would have passed out. You would have passed out before they even strapped you in. You would have passed out.
Yeah, I would have.
All right.
I just passed out just now, Tom, thinking about it.
We'll see you next week.
That was a HeadGum podcast.